During his budget speech, Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan announced a new incentives for special economic zones to try and enhance their development at a faster rate. Now, while businesses welcome the government's efforts, calls for further incentives to make local zones competitive against African and other international counterparts continue. Joining us now to discuss these developments is Themba Noluchungu from the Free Market Foundation. Themba, thanks for your time. Tell me, as the Free Market Foundation, do you support these?
We most definitely do, and we have emphasized that in our presentations, both written and oral, to the Portfolio Committee on Trade and Industry, and we have written also very extensively on the subject over the years. And so for us, we find that this is a commendable sort of initiative on the part of the government, and its point of departure being that the special economic zones are designated zones that are supposed to interest foreign investors, especially in investing in those areas, and also to stimulate economic growth and also socio-economic development within those dedicated special economic zones, and also just beyond that as a spin-off.
Yeah.
So we really are encouraged by that. But we are concerned that when it comes to the final details, the devil is always in the details, that there might be a problem there, that we might miss the boat in terms of how these SEZs are to be conceptualized. And so it is my firm belief, and we have made submissions to this effect, that we need to learn from the empirical sort of evidence in terms of what accounts for the successful special economic zones and what accounts for those that have failed.
Yeah.
And we also observe that in most cases, SPZs, SEZs have proved to be a failure, and so we need to learn from that, and we have made sort of comments on this basis.
Yeah, but Themba,
evidence to the government.
Themba, I'm surprised that as the Free Market Foundation, you actually support special economic zones, because I would have thought that you guys, supporting as you do economic freedom, as you put it, you just want not there be special places where you do this business, but it's just done within the country as a whole, and there be no creation of, if you like, these plastic structures.
Yeah, let me explain something here. For us, first prize would be the whole country becomes a special economic zone.
That's what I wanted to, that's what I'm putting to you.
Essential.
Yeah.
Yes, for us, that would be the first prize. But however, we're looking at what the government is doing right now in terms of the special cases and in terms of the special economic zones, and this is what we encourage and support. Now, we feel that, and we know that the demonstration effect of special economic zones, if they do succeed, it will be that will be emulated throughout the country. Yeah. That is why we are supporting this initiative.
So you would rather first begin with yes. So you begin with a trial phase, if you like, and then if that works out, you take it to the rest of the country. But you have just said that there are very few places where this has actually worked. So really, what we should be saying is, let's create a special economic zone of South Africa and make it work.
Exactly, but it's going to work if it is properly conceptualized, and that's very, very important for the policymakers to bear that in mind. That's of crucial importance, because I've indicated that in most cases, special economic zones have proved to be an unmitigated failure. This has been the case most certainly with South Africa, starting from during the apartheid era up to the present day. Yeah. And if you're looking, for example, at the Richards Bay IDZ, Industrial Development Zone, it's proved to be an unmitigated failure. For example, with government transfers of 331 million rands, that accounts for only 180 jobs. So it proves to be a failure. So it's encouraging that the government is embarking on this bill in terms of rigorously reviewing the existing SEZs and going beyond that in terms of identifying other areas to be designated as such.
Yeah. What type of zones would you be advocating? Are you looking at perhaps export zones, or are we just looking at specially protected zones where companies come in, they're given tax holidays and they're able to produce and provide the produce to the local economy?
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly the point. But the point of departure of this should be that the special economic zones should be conceptualized from the perspective of the people, the investors that we want to entice to these areas. Purely and absolutely from that perspective. This is of crucial importance. No one is going to invest in these zones purely because they want to do us a favor or because we achieved a political miracle or for whatever reason. They will look at these special zones purely from the perspective as to whether they will realize the best returns on their investment as compared to other SEZs throughout the world.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, for example, there should be an there should be abolition of exchange controls. We should not carry into these SEZs the labor market policies that we have throughout the country, because that has proved to be a deterrent to investment. And we should make them investor friendly. That's the bottom line.
Okay, let's bring into the conversation Kaya Ngaka, Chief Director Infrastructure Support at the DTI, that's the Department of Trade and Industry. Kaya, thanks for joining us. I want to put a question to you. Instead of creating these little places that we're talking about where you bring in companies and they are given special treatment, if you like, why don't we just make South Africa one special economic zone? Kaya, can you hear me? Well, it looks like we're having problems communicating with Kaya. Let me take the conversation back to, you can't hear me. Let's take the conversation back to Themba. Now, Themba, there's been a suggestion that there be a special economic zone focused on platinum because, of course, South Africa is the world's biggest producer of platinum. Is that something that the Free Market Foundation would support, and do you think it would work?
Yeah, look, for us, the underlying principle in terms of what ought to be, first of all, we believe that special economic zones should be seen as offshore, sort of kind of foreign sort of economies and so on, conceptualized on the basis of what would be in the interest of the foreign direct investors. So they have to be seductive to foreign investment. And so with that in mind, we feel that the conceptualization and identifying the industries and identifying the companies and identifying the areas, that should be left primarily in the hands of the private sector, because they are in a position to identify as to what areas ought to be designated for such and what sort of industries and so on. It should not be top down, say, from the government, with people who are not involved in the private sector in actual business, actually dictating as to where these ought to be and how they ought to be constituted. I'm told entirely that being left in their hands.
I'm told now Kaya is able to join us. Kaya, I asked the question earlier, and I really want an answer from you on this one. Why don't we just create one economic zone that is South Africa instead of creating these specialized zones? Because in part what we're saying by creating them or advocating for their creation, we're saying policy on the broader South African economy as a special economic zone has failed.
Thank you. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go for it.
Yes. I'm not sure when you say what if we create one special economic zone, if you're referring to
just to make South Africa
one area,
just referring to the fact that why don't we make South Africa one zone? In other words, standardized policies, the same policies that you'd put in the special economic zone, just apply it across the whole of the South African economy, because if there are benefits there, instead of getting them at a smaller level, you're getting them across the whole economy.
Thank you very much. I think, first of all, let me just give a background in terms of our purpose as a government on establishing special economic zone. The special economic zones, we see them as instruments for industrial development in the country. And we also understand that the various provinces and regions in the country are quite different in terms of their development stage and also in terms of their resource endowments. And therefore, it is important that we come up with an instrument that will actually address various needs of various areas.
Yeah.
For example, there are certain areas in the country that are rich in mineral resources. There are other areas, parts of the country that are rich in terms of agriculture and agro-processing opportunities.
Yeah.
And therefore, the reason why we come up with these zones is to sort of achieve what one can say is industrial decentralization, whereby you spread industrial development to areas that were previously deprived of those opportunities, instead of focusing on only traditionally industrialized areas in the country.
I hear you.
And
so
secondly,
instead of focusing just on Johannesburg and Cape Town.
Yes, and secondly, we would like to use the special economic zones in terms of exploiting new markets or new market opportunities.
Yeah.
For instance, now Africa as a region is seen as an area with a high growth potential based on its resources and the size of the market.
Yeah.
And it is important that we look, when we have special economic zones, we not only looking at South Africa as a single market, but we look broadly in terms of the continent. And our partnership for important partnerships like BRICS, of course, opens up opportunities for investors from outside the country to come and invest in South Africa. And more importantly, to invest in areas where we can beneficiate our mineral resources and export value-added commodities instead of focusing on exporting primary products.
Yeah. Kaya, we're running out of time, unfortunately. Sorry, we're running out of time, unfortunately. While we have you, can I just ask, so give me just sort of the time frames for which you're hoping to do this and how many areas you're targeting to create these special economic zones? We've got about a minute. Yeah,
in fact, we are going to roll out special economic zones. Right now, we have started some feasibility studies to check the viability of the proposed special economic zones. At the moment, we are planning to have 10 across the country, in addition to the existing industrial development zones in Kucha, East London, and Richards Bay. So we're going to have those, and they will be rolled out over the next few years. And of course, the government, together with the private sector, as our new legislation is giving that space, they will work together. Either we will have government-owned special economic zones, or we're going to have private-public partnerships, which is a very successful model at this stage globally.
Unfortunately.